So here's an update to a video that I covered a couple weeks ago, which a bunch of you guys took interest in, which is titled, Because of Her Idiot Friends, College Gal Nearly Breaks Up with Boyfriend for Helping Her Disabled Brother. And a shout out to Barry for sending me this update here. And guys, if you recall, this is about the young gal. She's 21, started dating this dude who's 22, 23, great guy, hits it off great, and she has a brother who's deaf. And he started making an effort to learn sign language to communicate with her brother, who obviously, has a hard time communicating, obviously, doesn't have many friends and all that. And it's going great. And her friends are saying that he's creepy and are causing her to have doubt about this guy and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. And I covered it to show just how superficial and stupid young people are capable of being, particularly young gals. Well, and she questioned a lot of things in there. And I said, hey, her friends are jealous. They're idiots. They're a-holes. Cut them loose. This is a great guy. But also shows you how stupid gals can be with good guys. And I think that one friend of hers, a guy, is jealous. Well, she has an update here that will bring back a little hope for humanity here. So the update says here, last week my friend group had our year-end party. And I decided to bring John along to meet the rest of my friends. Oh, I'm sure that was a lot of fun for John. My other friend in the group also brought his girlfriend. So this wasn't really weird. I've commented in the previous post that John had only met my closest guy friend, I'll call him Mike, so I wanted the rest of them to form their own opinions of John after they met him. Well, they already formed their opinions based on what that douchebag was saying. Initially, there was some tension and awkwardness from my friend group towards John. Well, if I was John, I would have walked. They were a bit cold to him, and they were throwing some harsh remarks towards him. Again, he should have walked, but he's a nice guy. Eventually, though, they all warmed up to him, and they were acting pleasantly and surprised by his personality. We all got along very well, and we all had fun in our games. However, I could tell there was an awkward tension coming from Mike towards John and the rest of our group. That's because Mike's jealous of him. Mike's a douchebag. He was throwing meaner jokes more than usual, and he's kind of isolating himself from the activities. Again, why John's putting up with this? He's a great guy. But I want to be tolerant of this crap. No girl's worth it. And that guy in particular should get punched in the face. The day after the party, I had lunch with my closest girlfriend, Sophie, to clear the air because I could tell they could also sense something was off. A lot of Redditors speculated that Mike had a crush on me and was jealous of my relationship with John. Gee, you think? Well, it turns out you're 1,000% correct. But it's a lot more complicated than that. No, it's not complicated. Young people, everything's so complicated. No, it's not. He has a hodge for you. He can't get you. He's jealous of the other guy. End of story. But she's young, and she's going to yammer on about things like how complicated it is. Apparently, Mike has had a crush on me since our senior year of high school. However, he's known our school and as a notorious ladies' man and had a new girl with him almost every month. So in other words, this chick telling the story is the girl he couldn't get. You want what you can't have. Not that complicated. That got exponentially worse during college. He had different hookups almost every night, and he had even had a pregnancy scare with a girl last year. Bound to happen. I knew about all this because he bragged about sleeping around every time we met up. What I didn't know that it was during the entire time, Mike had been making up fake stories about me and him. Sophie told me that apparently Mike and I had a pact that we were both single. When we were 30, we'd marry each other. Hasn't that been the plot of different movies over the years? Also, he told our friend group that we hooked up after graduation, and he took my virginity, then he's my special person, blah, blah, blah. He's telling all these people that, and you never heard this after all this time? He also told them that we've been secretly hooking up consistently throughout college. For context, Mike and I go to different universities, and they're 30 minutes apart. Lastly, he told them that I said I'm in love with him. He told our friends not to tell me anything, so I don't get embarrassed or upset that I had this image of being somewhat of a prude. Oh, for God's sakes. Douchebag. Mike also told our friend group that when he met John, he thought that John is a total jerk, and he's manipulating me and taking advantage of my innocence and being naive. He said that John had been forcing himself into my family and driving a wedge between me and my friends. And they just naturally believe him. I'm sure they know he's a douchebag, but they probably didn't want to get on his bad side. That's just young people. Mike also said that he had lunch with me and John, and he tried to convince me to stay away from John because he's not a good influence on me, but John had effectively brainwashed me. This explains why my friend group was already so antagonistic toward John when I told them about him. For the record, none of what Mike said was true. There was no pact, we never hooked up, and I've never been in love with him. Obviously, Well, it's time to cut ties with this douchebag, and any other these people are causing you problems. After that, Sophie and I asked the rest of the group, except Mike, of course, to jump on FaceTime to call with us. They all shared different versions of what Mike told them, and there was a lot more. But I dispute everything. We were all collectively shocked about everything we learned that day. They apologized for their behavior towards me and John, and I told them I understood given all the lies fed to them by Mike. Well, that's good of them. Now they owe this boyfriend John an apology too. Then everyone agreed to kick Mike off the friend group. Sophie suggested that maybe we could have an intervention for Mike first, but I just said that I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. An intervention? What, you're going to change him? Stop him from being a douchebag? Come on here. Well, good for her. Nothing to do with this jerk-off. The rest of the group agreed, so we essentially cut him off. Sophie said she would still talk to him just to inform him of everything that happened, but I really just wanted to distance myself from him. Yeah, Sophie probably has been hooking up with him, I bet. Now it's been a week of being Mike-free. Sophie said that when she and I and the other guy friend talked to Mike, he became extremely defensive, confrontational, aggressive. Shocker. He wasn't physically violent, but he called them names, attacked their characters, and made such awful statements about everyone in our friend group that I won't include here anymore. It looks like cutting him off completely was the right call. Of course. He's like, it's not my fault. And he is probably insulting them, saying they're crazy, making things up, she's lying. Yeah, this guy's an asshole. That's probably why they believed me, because they didn't want to get on his bad side. For him, that's a lot of people do with bullies. They kiss bullies' asses because they're afraid to be, the target of their vengeance. Now for more uplifting updates. So in other words, that lowlife's out of her life, and she's realizing that he put all that stuff in her head. Duh, it was as obvious as can be to the rest of us. But back to the boyfriend. After reading everyone's comments on my previous post, there were a lot, I reflected on my relationship with John and my friends. I then talked to my parents for advice, since they've had the best relationship I know of. They told me from what they saw of John when he visited our home and how I spoke to him, it seems like he's legitimately a nice person with pure intentions. Duh! He's making friends with your brother. Not just that, he's going on his way to learn sign language, okay? And this whole thing of he's just doing that to get her in the sack. Well, she is his girlfriend. Eventually they're going to hook up, for God's sake. He's not doing that. No pussy's worth that unless he really likes her, but also likes the family, likes the boyfriend. So he's not some creep. This is how dumb some young people can be. It also helps that John and I have been friends for months before we started dating. So I already knew his character even then when there was less pretense of him trying to impress me. Well, if you knew his character, what's the problem? I then told John about everything that happened and apologized, fully expecting him to be mad at me for doubting him and his intentions. Instead, he said he understood because, of course, it was just natural for me to trust my friends and expect them to have my best interests. Well, John's very mature and a good guy, but he's a little too understanding. She needs to give him some makeup pussy at this point. He then asked me if there was a point in our relationship when I felt uncomfortable or uneasy around him, and I categorically said no. I told him he's my safe space, and he has nothing to worry about. Every nice guy has something to worry about here, because John he's a great guy, but better be careful. He then reassured me that his intentions with me are genuine, and he even said that he sees a future with me, which I reciprocated. He shouldn't have said that. That gives her comfort and safety when you all know what happens when a girl becomes too secure. Also, John and Treb's friendship is still going strong. Treb's her brother. Treb has participated in one of John's D&D sessions with his friends, and John and I both acted as translators. We were delighted to see that most of John's friends already know ASL alphabet, apparently being included in their lore and D&D campaigns. Also, Treb has been asking John some tips for working out and getting fit lately, since they have some same body type, but John is more toned, and one of his brothers is a fitness instructor. Cool, now they're becoming gym buddies. This is awesome. Also, I met John's family for the first time at their annual get-together. It was fun. There were games and contests. Also, I wasn't prepared for it, but apparently, since their mom is in theater and their dad is a music producer, it was their family tradition to have a talent showcase. Oh, for goodness sake. Those art people. They gave me a pass this time, but they told me I should prepare something impressive for next year. John and his brothers performed Bye 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 by NSYNC in full Deadpool Wolverine style, while his sisters and their husbands did Defying Gravity from Wicked. Kill me now. Their parents did a medal, blah, blah, blah. She's getting on. She's getting along great with the family, blah, blah, blah. And it says, so that's for the end of the update. My relationship with John is stronger than ever, and I finally know who my true friends are. If you made it this far, thank you for so much of your time. Happy New Year to all. Well, that dragged out, but I was going to read it because you guys obviously want to know what's going on. So there you go. There's some hope here. But we all knew darn well her friends were jealous, particularly that guy who's a total D-bag who had the hots for her. Duh. Not that complicated. All the other background shit, that's just him being a scumbag, but regardless. Now, and it goes to show that, again, that guy was being a genuine good guy, befriending her brother, learning sign language to communicate with him because he liked him and he's a good guy. But the fact that easily he could have been kicked to the curb because she was so easily manipulated. And that's the effect that a friendship group can have on a girl. That's why it's so important, guys, to pay attention to who your girl hangs out with and the influence they carry. And if you have some gal that is easily manipulated and swayed, well, frankly, and can't think for herself, you don't want that girl. Now, I can hope that things go well for them, but John's a good guy. I think he'd be a friend that anybody'd like to have. But he also sounds like a guy who could be easily taken advantage of by a girl like this. Hopefully I'm wrong, because sometimes there are exceptions, but I hope I'm wrong. But anyhow, there you go. That is the update to the situation. But still, it is amazing how capable they can be of being so superficial and stupid. And usually girls like this whine and complain about the bad boys, but when they get a good guy like John, they get bored and dump them, and round you go.